With a stellar cast that included some of the biggest names in triathlon, a total prize fund of $1 million, and Collins Cup places up for grabs, the scene was set for a mouth-watering weekend of action.
I stay ready, cause the consequences is heavy. My man D said he would never quit, even though the thing's heavy. We push like a 7-7 Chevy, boys ready. My whole clique since 06 was on the bottom, now we running this. Grind hard when the load gets heavy. The money was slow, but now it's steady. You boys is not ready.
Hello and welcome to Edmonton, Alberta for the first major of the season, the inaugural PTO Canadian Open. We have got two fantastic middle distance races to bring you, made up of a 2K swim, an 80-kilometre bike ride and an 18-kilometre run. Coming up a little bit later on, we will find out if Alistair Brownlee could handle Norway's top talent, as well as the local man himself, Mr. No Limits, Lionel Sanders. But first of all, we concentrate on the women's race, including the world number one, Laura Philipp, the USA's Chelsea Sodaro, and the hometown favourite, Paula Findlay. Your race commentators are Belinda Granger, Vicky Holland, and Barry Shapley.
Well, I've noticed a variety of athletes, some wearing the little speed suit, some going with the traditional bathing suit. What would you have suggested, Belinda, here?
Well, it's interesting because obviously our longer distance athletes have all got swim skins on as expected, but I did see Nicholas Spirig without a swim skin, so that was very interesting, but it will make for a very fast transition.
Yeah, Nicola has been known to buck the trend on a few of the more traditional long course elements over the years. We're not expecting to see her on a time trial bike here today, preferring her road bike that she's much more comfortable on, and we've seen her race really well on a road bike. It enables her to be more nimble through the technical sections as well, which we know is going to play to her strengths. And as you said, in transition, the first transition here, we're going to see her go through really fast without having to take her swim skin on. It's just a question of whether that's going to slow her down too much in the swim beforehand.
We just saw the water temperature there at 23.4. That's very warm. So these athletes, they'll be very comfortable. They certainly wouldn't have wanted to wear a wetsuit today with that for 2 kilometers. Air temperature 17 right now. It's going to go up to about 23. You couldn't ask for a more perfect day of racing.
What we're seeing here is Victoria Lopez, as we suspected that she would be right at the front of this swim, if not leading it, and she's already put in a little gap ahead of Sara Perez-Sala.
Well, I was in LA and she won that race there, so we know that that 2 hours of fast speed is certainly something she has in her body.
She is one of the only athletes we've got here racing today who hasn't yet raced over this distance. So she was one of the wild cards that the PTO offered out as someone who did so well in that Los Angeles race back in May. She won that race, so she's shown that she can do it on her own. As someone who is a traditionally short course athlete, where we race in packs as drafting, this is very different, but she showed in Los Angeles earlier this year that she could do that by racing completely on her own that day and winning the event. So that earned her wild card slot here today. And I've got to take my hat off to her. She's not hanging around.
No.
She's not come in here shy and thought, I don't know this distance and I might have to hold back a little bit.
No,
she's doing exactly
she's all in. She's
doing exactly what she does in every race that I see her racing, which is obviously usually the short distance racing. Today, she's saying, hey guys, I'm here, I'm racing middle distance, and I'm going to take it to you.
As we come towards the end of the first of 3 laps, you see that blue carpet. They're going to come right up onto the carpet around that beautiful tree, do what's called an Australian exit, and back into the water. So that's a great shot. How close can these spectators come? And these are many age groupers who've just finished participating. That's a large gap there, Vicky. We've got 8:41 as Lopes comes out of the water, and we'll see who the next bunch of athletes are coming through.
So we know in that orange cap it is definitely Sara Perez-Sala. We do know that Lottie Wilms from Netherlands is also up in that front pack. Look for the red cap of Paula Findlay.
That's Ashley Gentle just coming out there, I think, at the back of those 4 girls. That's a fantastic swim for her and really sets up her day well. I mean, this course in general should suit Ashley as someone who comes from, again, the short course background with a slightly more technical aspect on the bike. That's something that she's got down before the race even begins.
Well, that is a brilliant swim right now by Lopez, no question about it. You can see athletes just coming back off of shore. So they're going to be almost a 2-minute gap after 1 of 3 laps. That is a massive swim difference when you take a look out there. No question about it. I mean, you don't have to worry about a ripple in this small Harlech Park. And this place, 1996 was the first time I came to Edmonton to watch racing. We had the 2001 World Championships here where, you know, the great Nicola Spirik actually won a World Junior title here 21 years ago.
Incredible
and
to
here in
think.
her final year of her career, she's back here racing. 2 laps in for Lopes from Brazil, just under 18 minutes. She looks like she's got this under control. 1 more lap in, and then they will go along that long blue carpet back to the bikes.
Looked like she just had a little question mark over, I am going back in, right? I am doing 1 more lap there. So I think that was just a little moment of, I've not got anyone to follow here. I'm on my own. I'm leading this thing totally on my own. Just checking. 1 more lap, yes?
I don't think I've ever seen a race with 3 laps at this distance. So it is very unique and great for the spectators as they come right back up. And it's now 28, so they've basically held their own on that last lap. So they really have not lost much time. Ashley Gentle continuing to hold on in that top 5 position as we're looking at some fantastic swimming after 2 laps right now here in Edmonton.
So we are just hearing, and I actually saw it as it happened live, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be picked up on, but Victoria Lopez did cut a swim buoy on lap 1. And it's a difficult one because this course, I actually have swum it a few times myself as it's been a short course triathlon many times. It curves round the backside of that island. And so you're following these marker buoys, but you're not able to swim in an exact straight line. You have to keep curving your way round. And as Victoria did that at the end of lap 1, I saw her go on the wrong side of one of those orange marker buoys. I wasn't sure whether that was going to be penalised or not, but we're just hearing that that has been picked up by the officials, and so more than likely she is going to have to take a penalty. Here you see her just coming onto the right side of that buoy, whereas they had to keep those orange markers always on the other side. And you can see the pack behind going to the other side of that buoy. And so as a result, she has slightly cut the course there, and she will be penalised for that.
Well, it's time to leave the water here in Harlech Park, that long blue carpet into the transition zone. And from the first few strokes, we've had this young woman in the lead, and she has continued to have a brilliant swim, 27:20 for the 2K, as Lopes from Brazil makes the way that last it's about 300 meters. It's a long run to get to the transition zone.
And it'll be interesting to see what sort of penalty that she ends up getting. We will let you know as soon as we find out what sort of penalty she will be given.
That's
cutting
Lauren
that can.
Brandon there coming through.
Great
And
race.
I think Lauren really picked up the pace on that 3rd lap there, because she's now only 12 seconds behind Victoria Lopez, whereas that gap was bigger at the end of the 2nd lap than it was at the end of the 3rd.
Fantastic swim from Julie Darren as well.
The age group athletes were on this course just hours before, now standing on the sidelines. What a great swim by Julie Darren from Switzerland.
I'm
Very good swim.
very impressed by that swim there from
Yeah.
Julie Darren. I feel like that was a much better performance than we probably expected. I expected to see her do good things on the bike and on the run on this course, but I wasn't expecting her to be right up there on the swim, just as she's shown there.
There you can see the athletes who've had those swimsuits on trying to get them off, whereas you can see Perez and others who will be able to have a few extra seconds not having to take off that extra clothing.
Yeah, some of those girls have sleeved suits, as we're seeing Ashley Gentle here just trying to get her sleeves in, so she'll have had that rolled down underneath her swim skin, mostly just to give herself more flexibility through her shoulders as she swam. Then she'll take off that swim skin, which she whipped off as she ran to transition and had to wiggle her way into her arms there. So we're seeing a real difference, because Julie Darren and Sarah Perez-Sala didn't do that, whereas Ashley Gentle and Lauren Brandon did. So they lost a little bit of time in T1 as they had to get themselves fully into their suits.
Well, Paula Finley just into the transition zone, 71 seconds down, and the legend just a few seconds back, Nicola Spirik. So we have some serious talent coming out of the water within that
Very
first 75
talented.
seconds.
So we can see Jackie Herring on screen now. one of the quiet achievers. I always think she goes into these races as the underdog and also doesn't get the accolades that she probably deserves. She's a very, very accomplished athlete, mother of 2 children.
Well, very early on, they're going to have to climb that hill. It doesn't look that difficult on television, but we drove it. I've walked it many times. It will zap the legs immediately out of the transition zone.
Yeah, the very first thing they do as they come out of Horelek Park is they turn right and they head up this drag as they head up into the residential area, and it's about 4 or 5% hill. It's relatively long. We can see on the split screen here Victoria Lopez sort of churning her way up it, and you can tell it's up a hill because you can see she's not going that fast. That's the real giveaway at this point, but she's one of the athletes here choosing to use a road bike. As someone who has only really raced over short course racing so far, she probably doesn't even own a time trial bike. So as they get onto the longer, flatter sections of the course, it'll be interesting to see whether some of those other girls behind really start to come up.
Well, that seemed to have done nothing bad for Taylor Knibb in the last couple of races that she's done on a road bike. So anybody who says it has to be that way maybe needs to take a look.
There's been some really good examples over the recent years of people doing great things in middle or long course racing on a road bike. Nicola Spirig, one of those, as you just mentioned, Taylor Knibb, and even Gustav Iden winning world title on one.
A brilliant swim from Victoria Lopez gave the Brazilian a healthy lead at T1, but with Paula Findlay fired up and in the mood, it was only a matter of time before the Canadian made her presence felt.
They're going up the uphill section, and I think Paula Findlay, right there, that's the aerial shot, as she's taking over the entire lead, probably not understanding that Lopez still has a 30-second penalty, but Paula Findlay is not waiting up for anyone else.
No, and I think with Paula's run pedigree, she would probably have backed herself to catch Victoria Lopez anyway. Lopez's strengths really do lie in the swim and the bike. That's not to say she's a shoddy runner as a short course athlete. You sort of can't be. It's too fast and furious, but I do expect Victoria to get caught by quite a few of the athletes as we go later on into the race. That said, she's so good on this technical stuff and on the hillier sections of the bike. If some of the other athletes maybe have had that a bit taken out of themselves, a bit sapped out of their legs,
then she'll be there to pounce.
Absolutely.
Well, it has been a frustrating start to this PTO Canadian Open for one of the women that we anticipated might be fighting it out for the victory at the end of the day, as Emma on the side of the road. And you can only imagine, there is Stephen Boudreau, who's one of the organizers of this event. That's got to be
so frustrating. You know, you're just waiting for someone to come and help you at that point. And yeah, you can see there the pump being attached. But unfortunately, we are getting information that she lost just so much time in this incident.
Be impossible.
That it's going to be nearly impossible, I think, for her to get back in the race. And, you know, she was one of my podium picks before the day began. I really did think that she was going to have a good race here today.
We're looking at Canadian Paula Findlay. Everyone will look up and see the maple leaf on her jersey as she comes by. Her face has been on every newspaper, every television report over the last couple of weeks. She's also been the kind of age group motivator, running some programs to get the age groupers who raced this morning and again tomorrow in the PTO 100. So she's had every aspect of this event, and finally her mother will have a chance to watch her. So I think Mom's put down the race director role for the last hour and 26 minutes as she'll be cheering on her daughter coming in at the halfway mark. And you'll hear that big cheer as Paula Findlay from Edmonton, right here at home, went to school here, watched Simon Whitfield on this course when she was a teenager, and that inspired her to want to do the sport.
And Vicky, we've spoken about how Paula Findlay's feeling right now. We haven't spoken about how this group, what would be going through their minds right now? There's the four of them that are working really, really well together, but they're not making inroads. What must be going through their mind? It's like, what are we doing wrong here?
I think they're actually going to be quite calm. I think no one in this group will have thought Paula wasn't going to do what she's done on the bike. Paula's biking pedigree, her cycling pedigree, has been known for years. It's been cemented with what she did recently here in Edmonton by winning the Canadian Time Trial Championships. So I think it's a case for them about staying calm.
Laura Phillips, we see her efficiency on the run. I mean, she is absolutely lethal. She just did that 8 hours and 18 minutes and change with the second fastest Ironman ever at Ironman Hamburg. And we know that when she gets off this bike, she is going to be one of the most fearful persons. Everyone's going to be looking over their shoulder knowing that right now she's top 7.
Final corner before the dismount line where Paula will get off her bike.
And that concern you have about flat tires and all that stuff now done.
Done.
The technical
Finished.
pressure
Yeah.
is off.
The bike is always where something can happen like that. Technical stuff.
Out of
a
your
crash.
control.
There are things that can happen that really devastate your race, but that is done now for Paula as we see her smoothly rack the bike, helmet in the box, going for some socks.
And this is new for these guys. Some of them don't have the box in
No,
the long distance
no,
race. You
no.
don't want the extra penalty.
Absolutely, and in short course racing, it's something that those racers will be incredibly used to. Anything outside of the box, anything left outside of the box will incur a penalty.
Look at
so
that.
Paula there,
Straight
just
back in,
picking
straight
up.
back
man.
in.
Good for her,
Yeah.
because I've seen a couple of the messy boys take their penalties by
Yeah.
dropping stuff all over.
She knows she's still got 18 kilometres left to run. She looks fantastic.
She's looking smooth.
Yeah, that's a great opening run right there for sure.
So we see Jackie Herring, Fenella Langridge,
Yeah.
all coming into transition now as well.
that group who are sort of in the end of the top 10 and in the early teens, they all rode into transition together. So some of these athletes, again, will really benefit from having others to follow. Whereas some might, potentially pace it a little bit wrong, trying to go with athletes that it's not right for them to do so. Laura Philipp is now 2:28 down on Paula Findlay. She's running in 4th place at 2 minutes 28 seconds down. It was about 2:40 when she came into transition, so she's already started to take some time out. And Ashley as well has also made up 15 seconds on Paula Findlay's lead just in the first kilometre and a bit. So that lead is coming down. It's a question of, is it going to continue to come down, and what pace is it going to come
and
down
do
at?
the math. 18 times 15, you're about 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
Which
and
means
that's well under that 2-minute barrier that we talked about earlier.
And there's another athlete who looks like they've been
Sarah Crowley,
able not to
unfortunately.
finish today. Yes, Sarah Crowley. So it's such a shame when we see these athletes not finish, and especially because we know they desperately want to, with the opportunities that are on the line, with both the money they can earn today, but the potential to be selected into their Collins Cup team. So it'll be devastating for them on several accounts that they won't be able to finish the race today.
Well, the inevitable is about to occur. One of Australia's great athletes over the last 20 years, and I can go back to some absolutely ridiculously talented athletes. The names of Joanna King and Loretta Harrop and all of these names that have come through. But we are looking at maybe the future of middle and long distance triathlon.
We haven't quite convinced Ash to move
No,
up to
no.
the full distance
well, I
quite
think you
yet.
got to get her to finish 3.5 hours before you ask her to go for 8. But right now,
Yeah, she's going to pass any second here at speed as well.
let's see if there's any interaction at all as they go by.
No, it looks like absolutely nothing. Complete focus from both of those athletes, and it's really important for both Ashley to continue doing what she's doing and not get too sort of adrenaline buzzed by that moment.
That's right, too fast.
But it's also really, really important for Paula now not to take that as oh, my day is done. She has to really just keep doing everything she's doing, because that gap to Laura Philipp is still at 2:36. So it's, if anything, Paula took back a second on Laura on the latest time checks we've got. So she's really got to keep focused.
So we're looking at the battle for the podium right there for third and fourth place.
Doesn't this just show you the caliber athlete of Laura Philipp?
Mm-hmm.
She's raised her game here.
She is incredible, because as I said, she's picked it up. Chelsea's going with it. Chelsea's caught her. They're running side by side. Oh, I would not want to pick who's going to outrun who right now, because they both look incredible.
Glasses are off, the smile is on, and the new era of mid-distance racing might just be recognized today.
There's that smile.
As we are taking a look, and here comes Ashley Gentle towards the finishing line. There's no question that Ashley Gentle going to come to the finish. She's come to Canada, and Ashley Gentle from Australia will claim the first ever PTO Canadian Open. What a fantastic job. Brilliant swim. did what she needed to do on the bike, and the brilliance of her run claims victory here in just over 3 hours and 30 minutes.
Absolutely incredible, Barry. And look, you can see the emotion now is just so raw. She's realizing exactly what she has just done.
It was a solid swim, a absolutely decimating bike ride. The woman that won the Canadian Time Trial Championships. Her mother's the race director. Her family's been out here on the course. She's been on the posters. A lot of pressure. Now the smile finally coming out. There it is. Paula Findlay, the Olympian, the long distance athlete. She won in Daytona a year ago, and this is going to be a $70,000 US payday as the local girl smiling, and that's the way you want to see it. Paula Findlay, almost 10 years after she was at the Olympic Games, crosses the line in second, and what a joyous day for her racing at home.
Oh, incredible racing from these two women. And look, I love this. Big congratulations on the finish line. I'm sure that is such relief for Paula as well. As we said, she's been under so much pressure, the pressure that she's put on herself, because as she said, when she puts on her race kit with that maple leaf, it's a big deal.
At home
it's a big deal.
At home for sure. And you got to believe that those two women are both going to be heading to the Collins Cup. So first and second for the international team, you have to think that Erin Baker and Craig Alexander are going to be very pleased.
Have to put these two on the team. And we've got reports out on course that Laura Philipp and Chelsea Sodaro, yes, there they are right now, still running head to head.
So that's the battle now. There's a large paycheck difference. They're less than a minute from the finishing line, side by side. Someone's going to have to make the move at some point.
Honestly, this is incredible. And you can see
Chelsea.
Chelsea's starting early.
Yeah, well, she does had a brilliant track background, no question about it. The woman behind her just having set the second fastest time in the history of the world, and Laura Philipp not able to
That's incredible. Look at that.
Chelsea Sodaro now taking off. It'll be a quick right-hand turn into the finishing line, and this might in fact be the fastest run of the day. We'll have to wait to see the split, but look at, she's on top of her toes. What a brilliant job. The U.S. team that are going to have some brilliant athletes like Taylor Knibb and Skye Munch on the team, Jackie Herring. You got to think that this woman is going to make sure she has a spot. This is a massive paycheck, $50,000, a $20,000 difference between third and fourth, as Chelsea Sodaro takes the podium.
She can't quite believe it. Look at her. She's on that finish line. She's like, what just happened? Did I just get third?
That's a lot of diapers she's going to be able to buy.
Well, let me tell you, this just proves how important that PTO maternity leave is. There's no way that Chelsea could have done what she's done today without that. And Laura Philipp coming home in a well-earned, hard-earned fourth place.
I think at the very last U-turn, I had a bit of a head spin. That's how much I literally couldn't believe it. And then I had to really back off the pace because I'm like, I've got to actually get to the finish line now. So it hasn't sunk in, but that feeling of, the last straight and crossing the finishing line is one I'll never forget.
As you came round the final straight, you had your arms in the air celebrating in front of your supporters, and it's so good to see that off the back of a heroic performance from yourself. But just give us a little sense of the emotions off the back of a day, a week and a month of expectation like you've had.
Yeah, honestly, racing at home, I was more nervous than I've ever been, more nervous than the Olympics, anything, and because I had all of the support behind me and didn't want to disappoint anyone, and I knew I was fit, I knew I was healthy, but you never know what's going to happen on the day, so to be able to have a good performance, and of course I wanted to win, but there couldn't be a more deserving champion. Ash is such a classy runner, and I'm just so happy I could hold on for second.
Well, Paula Findlay led a very strong Canadian contingent. They were second in her case, Tamara Jewett, top 15, and Rach McBride. So three Canadians in the top 15 as we take a look right there. Phenomenal. Chelsea Sodaro ended up with the second fastest run of the day at 1:04.08. It was Jewett with the fastest run as we take a look. Laura Philipp, what a phenomenal performer, and that was gutsy coming back. Holly Lawrence really had a better second half of that race. She really came through. And Nicholas Spirik, the veteran at 40 years of age.
Always solid finish from Nicholas Spirik, top 10.
Ashley Gentle then, taking the plaudits along with a cool $100,000 first prize. A terrific performance and a worthy winner of the first ever PTO Canadian Open. Paula Findlay had delighted the home crowd but came up just short. Now they turned their attention to another local hero as Lionel Sanders prepared to face off against the big guns, Blumenfeld, Eden and the returning Ali Brownlee.
Little bits of movement there, but I think it might be just legal enough for everything to roll. And tell us, Vicky, in that first few hundred meters, what's going on in your mind when you're standing there with 45 or 50 of the best people in the world? Maybe it's the Olympics, maybe it's the world champs, but you still have that kind of a swim start.
It's always about position. At this point, you really want to be as close to the front as you possibly can be once you hit that first turn buoy, especially in large fields, 40 odd athletes we've got here today. There's going to be a bit of a race to that first turn buoy. We can already see on the far side, on the far right of the screen there, the silver cap of Ben Canute leading out that train. That's not really a surprise. We're also going to be keeping an eagle eye on the orange cap of Henry Schoeman. We're really expecting to see something from him. And we're already picking out there Sam Laidlow. So most athletes are wearing red, with just a few others with those coloured caps for ease of sight for us here to pick them out for you.
Well, the water temperature well into 23, 24 degrees, so it's not going to be a problem here. We saw numerous age groupers, almost 700 of them racing earlier this morning, just getting finished the age group PTO 100, and they are all now recovering on the sidelines watching their heroes. What a fantastic chance. I mean, you literally raced on the course that Christian Blumenfeld is going to race on over the next 3 hours.
It's just not something that happens in too many other sports, being able to compete on the same course as your heroes. I mean, imagine being able to do that at Wimbledon, being able to play on centre court in the morning before Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic come on in the afternoon.
Exactly.
It's so unique to our sport. Just picking out, I believe, Henry Schoeman there with the orange cap. No surprises to see him. He's leading that middle spearhead. We've got Ben Canute leading the spearhead to the near side, and I believe that's Sam Appleton in the pink hat on the far side, just coming in to meet with Henry Schoeman on his line.
And I dare say on Henry Schoeman's feet would have to be Aaron Royal. We don't know for sure, but we know that Aaron Royal is also one of the top swimmers here today. So you can see that they're all starting to come together now, that little front pack. This is a nice front group.
So as we're into the swim now, 3 laps, 667 metres each, with an exit and entry each time.
It is a very spectator-friendly course. I mean, you're going to see these athletes coming out of the water numerous times, and that is unique. I mean, the ITU athletes like Henry, like Aaron, will have done this up and over pontoons, but, the athletes like a Lionel Sanders and Jackson Landry and others, that's pretty foreign to them. And we noticed yesterday a much bigger gap in the lead. The difference between the lead women and the last athletes coming out of the water, was probably an extra minute. Well, no big surprise to see Alistair Brownlee in that lead group of 6 right now as we go back to the start of the swim just over 11 minutes ago. For our viewers just in, it's 3 loops to make a total of 2 kilometers, 660 meters each lap. No wetsuits today. Some of you will see people that look like they have a little tiny extra suit on. Talk about that, Vicky. What's the purpose of that suit?
Yeah, so that's a skin suit, which is a thinner version really of a wetsuit. It makes you faster, it's sort of more hydrodynamic in the water. It's not legal in short course racing, it's not legal in pool swimming, but these athletes in middle and long course racing are allowed to use them, and they're definitely an advantage in terms of how you will swim. But as we did see yesterday, once they're wearing them, they have to take them off for getting onto the bike, so that inhibits them in T1. So they've got to weigh up the difference of faster in the water and slower in T1, or the opposite.
I mean, we're so fortunate right now. I would say we're in the greatest moment of triathlon's history. That what the PTO has been able to do, elevate everything, but then you add the extra stuff like the Super League, and you add in things what the World Triathlon are doing. It's just been a special time to be a triathlete in terms of prize money and television, and the PTO, I have to believe, are really pushing the edge.
The options that are available for athletes now far exceed what there's ever been before, and the PTO are just so unique in the way that they are co-owned and ran by the athletes. That's not something we see in any other organisation, so the athletes are really racing their race here.
Well, 363 days ago, Schoeman got to do this, and he's doing it to magic once again. Aaron Royal, great to see him back. Ali Brownlee, looking fantastic. Ben Canute.
A little bit of a look behind. Ben wanted to know exactly who's there. There's Carl Smith. Looks like he's just dropping off the back.
Yeah.
Just a little. He needs to really dive into that water and try and get back on the feet. There he is himself, Lionel Sanders.
Yeah, lots of time to make up there for the man who likes to drill the bike, but this is a brand new concept.
2:28 down now after 2 laps. So
Yeah.
he's inevitably going to lose more time over that final lap, but he's got to be in damage limitation now.
Yeah, well, that's the 4-minute thing. I mean, there was 2 things I kind of observed coming in for Sanders right there in the yellow cap. One of them was the fact he's been up at altitude and it's new for him.
He's been at Flagstaff, Arizona, right?
So he's still learning about how his body responds, and a lot of what he's doing now is for, a year from now and, 18 months learning how to deal with altitude. The second factor that's been for him is that his coach, Justin Slade, is back in Tucson, Arizona. So I'm anticipating that he's been back in a pool on his own up in Flagstaff versus being with a swim program.
With a swim coach.
And when you're still in that development stage, I mean, you could be a Henry Schoeman and go swim at the YMCA pool.
It makes no difference.
Yeah,
That's right.
But when you're Lionel Sanders,
you need
good,
your coach.
You need
Yeah.
good technical people
You
looking
do.
at you every day.
Well, someone we've not touched on yet in the swim, but who's having actually a really good swim, is Gustav Eden. So he's someone who's been a little bit off this season with his swim in particular, but he's currently in the Christian Blumenfeld group. So that's the second main group. That is a brilliant swim for
Great swim
Gustav
for
Eden.
Gustav.
If he can come out the water right with the likes
exactly
of
where he'd want to be.
Christian
Exactly where
Blumenfeld,
he'd want to
exactly where he wants to be. And my only thoughts that Gustav wasn't going to have a fantastic day was if he didn't hit that swim.
Look at the massive gap there. You can see the group of 4 just starting to drop Ben Canute and Kyle Smith. That's just up near that boat moving around. And then that has to be 75 to 100 meters back to the group that has Matt Sharp in it, that has Christian Blumenfeld, and a group of about 9 or 10. So some serious horsepower, however, in that Blumenfeld group. You have to believe that they're going to explode on this bike as soon as they get out of the water.
And I suppose that's the only saving grace for, say, Ben Canute and Kyle Smith, as they are starting to lose touch with this lead group, is that they know that there is a very powerful group right behind.
Well, that just shows how spectacular an athlete Aaron Royal is. I mean, he came in as a name that was on virtually nobody's sheets. We know, from all of his ITU years, how great he is, particularly when he is in form. He's an average guy when he's not in great form, but boy, you give him those few times a year, he can be very special. And look at these Aussies have been, locked up for the last couple of years. We saw Ashley Gentle yesterday unleash the beast. Maybe Aaron Royal's day to get himself on a podium.
And, I think this distance actually really suits Royal. I think it suits him more than people give him credit. I've watched him several times now over the middle distance, and now this being just that touch shorter, he'll bring all the speed that he's got from short course racing, but he's got the endurance to last over this distance.
How close can those spectators get right there? Fantastic. That's Henry Schoeman trying to get out of his speed suit. Aaron Royal just behind him. The 2-time Olympic champion, Alistair Brownlee in red. Sam Laidlaw right there as well, and then you can just see Ben Canute and Kyle Smith coming out of the water and nobody else for about another 30 seconds.
We're going to be waiting a while. I think it could be closer to a minute. The last overhead shots we had, the gap was absolutely huge. And just to go back to Aaron Royal, he's actually said that he's more than likely going to start focusing on this
On the
distance
longer
now.
distances, yes.
He's done a lot over the short course racing, but it might be time.
4 of those first 6 men have been to the Olympic Games. How special is that? You can see, and we talked about the ITU impact of those Olympians.
Yeah, well, what we just noticed there with Henry Schoeman, he took his bike to run out and realised he hadn't taken all of his swim skin off. He'd only taken it down to his waist, so he had to go back, re-rack his bike, take his swim skin off completely. So that's cost him. He would have been first out of transition.
Aaron Royal now first out in transition
and
instead.
now he's coming out, still in touch with this group.
That's part of not racing for 363
I think
days,
it could
however.
be, and also not being super used to actually taking off a swim skin.
And I have to say, great transition by Kyle Smith. He's actually made some time back up.
Here
and
they
I think
come
that
now.
group will be together. Here we go, the next group out.
Blumenfeld leading that bunch down by about 50 seconds, almost a minute right there. So if you're taking a look, that is a group of about 9 or 10. And then look at, this is the magic now of getting out of those suits.
Mickey Tagholt there coming through, Team PWAG. You've got Christian Blumenfeld right behind him, but the great one, there you can see him, Gustav Eden. Fantastic swim for Gustav.
That will really set up Gustav Eden's day. Matt Sharp just coming through the screen there.
Frederick Funk, Colin Chartier there
Jason
as well.
West was right there, and he needed to have a swim like this.
This group.
Fantastic run.
41-year-old Brent McMahon was in that bunch, and he has raced here probably 15 or 20 times. David McNamee. So the magic now out onto that bike course. They're down by about 50 seconds.
Pablo DePina also there, Starkey also there. This is one incredible group of athletes.
Frederick Funk, Gustav Eden in there as well. You've got two-time Olympian.
And the class swimmers of the field really going. There is Lionel Sanders just trying to get out on the right side. So he will be virtually one of the last athletes, maybe third last out. So he's going to have Belinda another one of those tooth-popping bicycle rides here for the next 80 kilometers.
Well, he did say in the press conference that if it had to be, that he was going to go all out on that bike. It's something he's used to doing. You can see Matt Hansen on screen now, Tim Van Berkel, and right behind Lionel Sanders. So this is not a bad group, but you know what? Lionel Sanders won't be hanging around in this group. He'll be getting in transition and out onto his bike, and he will be going full throttle.
Do you think Lionel Sanders will have had a time in his mind that he will have wanted to be?
Not this time.
He would have thought, is this an acceptable deficit that I have to make up?
Based on his swimming this last year, he would have said, if I can be under 3 minutes, if I can be like, 2:15, he's had a couple sub-2s. Right now, he's almost 3:48 down. And his transition certainly is not an Aaron Royal.
It was predicted to be 4 minutes, though. So, it's not like he's actually better than the predictions. So...
One of the only athletes actually stopping to put his shoes on in transition, and then he'll have to run with his shoes on. I'm glad he remembered to put his swim stuff in the box, because he had it on the wrong side of his bike for a minute there. So yeah, that definitely has slowed him down a little bit through transition there. He's had to put his shoes on, run to his bike, and then get on. Whereas we saw a lot of the other athletes have their shoes already attached to their bike.
To his credit, if he doesn't have the skill at that, he's probably wise to stay with what he's at.
Definitely not a traditional world triathlon mount.
No, but
it's not short course racing.
No, it's not short course racing.
I've seen guys lose a lot of time trying to be too cool for school, and they just don't get it done. So at least he's recognized he's not skilled in it, and if he's going to do more of this type of format, it's probably a few little transition practices he's going to need to add into those Wahoo
into his training
workouts.
Sessions, that's right.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's Alistair Brownlee we're seeing at the top of screen there.
Does that surprise you?
Not in the slightest. I think knowing where Alistair's come from, it's widely publicised. He's had injury problems this year, and he's only just coming back to racing, having made such a last-minute decision to come only on Monday this week. I felt like it was almost ominous that Alistair was going to turn up. He was probably almost tempted to come, knowing this calibre of the swim athletes that would be here. Someone like a Henry Schoeman, he really makes the race for Alistair by dragging out that swim in the way that he has done.
He's the Richard Varga of
he is these days.
Today's
and then
race.
Alistair can pounce as soon as we get onto the bike, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Alistair really trying to put a massive gap in on the field to try and give him a buffer for that run.
For their run.
Belinda, is there a little bit of a least benefit for Lionel Sanders not to worry about other people and other lines going on this road? I mean, right now he's got a nice clean piece of pavement.
We did see that in yesterday's race, where we had that group of 4 women who we thought would be riding a lot faster, but in fact they were losing time not only to Paula Finlay out front, but to the chasers. We know that there were Laura Phillip and also Chelsea Sodaro, Jocelyn McCauley were actually making up time. Those women were riding solo but making up time. We do know that with that transition of Lionel Sanders, he actually lost another 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's showing you the importance of transitions in this particular race. So he lost 15 seconds to Alistair Brownlee in our lead group here.
Well, that is Sam Laidlaw, I think, and he is showing no respect for the two-time Olympian Alistair Brownlee, as these two guys are really starting to stretch things out here.
Yeah, it's interesting though, we're still seeing in the background there Aaron Royal hanging tough, hasn't really given away too much time to these two, and right behind him as well, Henry Schoeman. There's been no real changes in the front. I am pleasantly surprised actually to see that Alistair hasn't just got on the front and ridden away with it.
We know that Trace group has now broken into 2 groups, as we see Sebastian Kienle coming through on screen now with Lionel Sanders, so that is a lethal combination right there.
Now interestingly, almost everybody is losing time to Alistair Brownlee right now. Lionel Sanders is riding the exact same pace. He's still 4
so
minutes
him and
down.
Sebastian Kienle.
So what you likely will probably see over the next couple laps, and there you can see Sanders really pounding the legend Sebastian Kienle just behind him, is that Sanders is going to start catching over the next lap and a half a lot of the people who came out of the water 1 to 2 minutes, but they could still be 4 minutes down on Alistair Brownlee by the end of this ride. I mean, if he rides exactly Alistair's pace, he's going to be 4 minutes down starting the run.
144. So that deficit
It's
is
coming
definitely
down.
starting to come down. The last time we saw it between our leaders, Alistair Brownlee and Sam Laidlow, and Christian Blumenfeld and his pack, including, of course, Gustav Eden, it was about 156. So they've taken about 12 seconds out just in the last few kilometres. So it is starting to come together.
Well, Lionel Sanders has moved himself from 33rd place up to 20th, and he's caught his Canadian athlete and teammate Jackson Landry. So it's actually Canadian Sharp, Sanders, and Landry in 19th, 20th, and 21st spot overall. So Sanders moving well, but he still is losing a second or two to Ali Brownlee. And that puts things in perspective, because he has built this incredible reputation of being an insane rider. And if this was a flat course, he would be making up more time. But the technical descents, the corners, that is not his forte. And you can just see even massive power doesn't overdo technical expertise, which is what we're seeing from Sam and Alistair right now.
We know that chase group is coming.
Well, Kyle.
There we go. We can see
Yeah. There's
Gustav
Gustav
Eden.
Eden. And he's been very impressive today. Just quietly goes about getting his job done.
Yeah, he's not been at the front yet, but he's had a swim that I think is better than any swim he's done so far this year. His swim really hasn't been quite where he'd want it to be in the races he's done so far.
Well,
but
if you think about that race he had back at the championship several months ago, I was shocked with how far back he came out of the swim, and of course then he got that flat tyre, and I really thought that his race was all over there and then. But in true Eden style, he came back, he fought all the way through and was able to finish in first place because of that run. So I think we're going to see exactly the same here today.
Now, are these guys biking for show and going to have to run for dough?
dough?
I mean, are they going to have the run legs? I mean, we know this man is,
He definitely will.
Olympian,
No doubt about it.
multiple time 70.3 world champ. But, certainly Sam is, we're hearing that, should he be holding back, or, just go out there and try to get as big a gap as you can?
I'm not sure there's any virtue left in Sam holding back.
Sure.
He's gone all in to this point, and I think he's got to continue to go all in. There's no other way to play it. Yes, that doesn't mean sprint out the first 5K and then suffer for 13, but I think he's just going to go out for that best effort 18K. He knows there's going to be guys coming from behind him, but it's a case of how many of them can he hold off.
Yeah, they can run him down. That's right.
The run course, just for our viewers to know, is out and back. It's 2.25 kilometers up and over the river across the bridge. You'll see each other at the turnaround, back right into the transition zone, and do that, a total of 4 times. So there's going to be a lot of eyeball time out there on that run course.
Oh, yes.
Here come the two men who have had brilliant swims, brilliant bikes. They're going to have probably close to 90 seconds to start on the run, and I think very quickly we're going to find out whether or not Ali Brownlee's got those run legs to make this magic today, or whether this is going to be a long, long slug for 18 kilometers.
And it's going to be interesting to see how he takes it out here. Is he going to go full throttle? We know that that's the way that Ali Brownlee loves to race. Or is he going to say, okay, I know I don't have the run fitness that I would like to have.
Oh, look at Brownlee. He rode over that line.
He dismounted over the line, so
He
I
did.
think he's hoping that by returning there, he won't get a penalty.
That is a very rookie mistake. I mean, you could see him riding right over, and it was interesting. He wasn't very aggressive coming in. He was just riding through.
Yeah, and we'll have to wait and see whether the officials will accept his sort of return back over the line.
Can I do that again? It was almost like, can I do that again, please?
Yeah, we'll have to see whether they will accept that, or whether, unfortunately, he will have a penalty to serve at some point.
Now, it looks like there was another little bit of a muck-up with Kyle Smith then on coming into transition. You can see Frederick Funk, Christian Blumenfeld, Gustav Eden already out.
And Christian Blumenfeld has taken that deficit down. It was 12 seconds the last time we saw it, and it's only
fast.
a few seconds there between Gustav and Christian.
We understand from feedback in the technical booth that no penalty now for Alistair Brownlee. He corrected.
And, now I think he's putting his marker out
look
there
at him
to
now.
show.
Oh, look, he's in absolute pain. Look at him. Oh, this is awful.
He's I think you're gonna see a bit of those carbohydrates coming out of him here shortly. That is,
God.
No, this is not good. He is in all sorts of trouble.
He's holding just under his stomach there, his diaphragm, under his rib cage. It looks like he was holding onto his diaphragm, which could indicate a really painful indigestion or stitch, perhaps. It's really hard to know exactly what's going on, but you can just see his face.
This is not
You've
what
gotta-
Alistair Brownlee would want to
No.
see. And in that picture, just over, is the current Olympic champion and world champion at long course and short course, and they're going to be going by a walking Ali Brownlee.
Yeah,
so.
he did look like he was just trying to take some deep breaths there, and I think that's probably the only thing that he can do right now.
There's Lionel Sanders showing that he does not let up whenever he's out on the course. People watching are going to say, is that guy injured?
Nope.
I've seen
He
him
looks
run like
he's
this
limping.
for a
He's not.
decade. And, you know, he just is able to push through with that incredible form. It certainly looks inefficient, but it does get the time done.
Yeah, now we're back with Alistair Brownlee, and it's just, it really is awful watching someone of such high caliber, and you know what they are capable of, and you know what this race means to them.
Well, taking a look right there, that was Ali Brownlee, the first to go down. Like, who would have anticipated this?
No one. And then front of the race, we're thinking any second now Christian's going to get to the front, and instead he has to stop with what looks to be a strained quad. Hopefully nothing more serious than that, and we don't have any update on whether he's back on the course yet.
And then Sam, there's 3.
And that's it. Will any of those 3 be able to finish, or is their day done? It's
Well,
not looking good.
There's Blumenfeld. Is he
So
back?
he's running again.
He is running again.
Jesus, this guy is tough. That is, you know.
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I'm really
well,
surprised
if he's
to see him
loosened
back
up,
running.
If he's loosened it up, then that's okay. But, you know, you also have to find that fine line of not being too ego and hurting
Yeah.
yourself, because this is not a Formula One car that you can go buy another $1 million chassis, you know.
Absolutely not. And with the racing that he's done in the last year, and the racing that he's still got to come in this season, the racing he wants to be on top form for example, the Collins Cup coming in just a month, he probably does need to be looking after himself. And he was running at real speed when we just saw him then. I'm amazed that he's able to do that, because it really looked not just like a cramp, like it might be a strain, but he's still going.
Obviously not. No.
Ali Brownlee going in the opposite direction.
Well, isn't this great to see? We've had 3 athletes that have really suffered. We've seen Ali Brownlee suffering, we've seen Christian Blumenfeld suffering, and we've seen Sam Laidlow with cramping. All 3 athletes still in there, still gutsing it out. And look, at the end of the day, this is the inaugural PTO Tour race in Edmonton. It's a big deal. $1 million up for grabs. For every age group athlete out there looking on, seeing these pro athletes and seeing it not go their own way, they want to see these athletes guts it out. So, like you said, as long as they're not doing any sort of permanent damage, hats off to these guys. I love the fact that they're like, no, I'm going to make it to this finish line.
Christian Blumenfeld, hat on backwards. It was just about 20 minutes ago that we wondered if he would be off the course and not able to finish, but he is eating into that gap. I think he just might run out of a little bit of geography. You can see there the top right side of the screen. That is Christian Blumenfeld. And down on the left side now, just 250 meters from the finishing line. We will not have enough time for that man to catch up to Christian Blumenfeld. Is not going to have enough time to catch, but it is Gustav Iden from Norway, part of the Norwegian train, as he has absolutely raced to perfection. He looks over his shoulder, and I think for the first time he's going to realize that he's going to have this thing, the victory, the Canadian Open. He's now starting to show some appreciation to the crowd. It's onto the blue carpet as Gustav Iden from Norway, the man who has dominated this mid-distance, is going to win the Canadian Open. Solid swim, brilliant bike, and the day's most important factor, he got it job done on the run. Iden from Norway will win here in Canada. Christian Blumenfeld, and he's still sprinting to the finishing line.
He doesn't know any other way.
Grabs the watch time at the finishing line. Christian Blumenfeld, boy, that is a gutsy race. Here he comes. He's going to take the 3rd position on the podium. Nobody would have mentioned his name before the day started. It has been a big weekend for Australia as Aaron Royal crosses the line in 3rd place here at the PTO Canadian Open.
Yeah, I did the first lap in the front, and I thought Christian could be a bit in the front as well. He just got there, and I started to kind of get a bit comfortable behind him. And then he suddenly pulls out with a cramp, and I was thinking, damn, now I have this, no problem. And then I see him in a turnaround over there, and he's actually not that far behind, and he's gaining on me. and I'm a bit low on energy, and the last lap was full on struggle. So I heard 30 seconds at the turn run over there, and I was thinking 15 seconds per K. I mean, Christian have done it before, so he can do it again, but luckily I managed to keep him behind.
I just kind of felt like I missed it there, and I'm cramping up, and I was happy to be able to come back again in the race and fight for the win at least in the end and be back on the podium. At one point there I thought that I have to pull out, and then to now come back and get second and 70k isn't too bad, I would say.
Final confirmation then of our men's result, and a brilliant victory for Norway's Gustav Iden. But what a performance from his compatriot Christian Blumenfeld, who very nearly pulled off the impossible, while Aaron Royal did his Collins Cup chances no harm at all with a superb display to finish third. Well, we promised you drama, and boy, did our athletes deliver. What a way to celebrate the sport of triathlon, and what a way to build up to the Collins Cup in Slovakia that is now fast approaching. You do not want to miss it. We'll see you then, but from all the team, it's bye for now.